those that are suffering and the most needy in our country. And we must have empathy for all, and we must bring hope again to South Africa. So, I have been deeply encouraged by the response and the support that this message of good has prompted in our country. As I said, I wanted good South Africans, men and women, young and experienced, of all races, to step forward to lead our country. I was looking for those who represent the beautiful diversity of our country, who wish to lead in restoring hope in our country. And I was not disappointed. Over the past 2 weeks, we have been managing a database of South Africans who stepped forward to join the good movement. And thousands have come forward, and we now have a steady base from which to grow. Many people have offered financial support for our movement. We now have activists who are working in all 9 provinces. We also work with prominent industry experts to assist us to develop the name, the identity, and the brand of our movement. So that name and identity arose from the hopeful and patriotic vision we hold, and the values that are enshrined in our movement's constitution, the values that are enshrined in our constitution. And it's those values that will guide us as we contest elections and govern in the future. And some of the values include trust, the truth, equity, solidarity, and service. Now, over the past few weeks, we've also been working, in fact 2 weeks, we've been working on developing the policy positions that will give life to the values and the country we hope for and will fight for. And we have, in the process, and we've developed 4 policy themes, and those themes will be spatial justice, social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. So those are the 4 broad themes that we are developing. And for the purposes of introducing our movement to you, I've just summarized some of the themes and the work from the work that we've done so far. Let me start with spatial justice. What do we mean in a policy framework when we want to fight for spatial justice? Race and space has determined the opportunities of many South Africans for centuries. No democratic government in South Africa has tackled the apartheid spatial planning. It still persists in our country. Now, to achieve spatial justice, it is essential to creating a more equitable South Africa. The apartheid spatial plan continues to keep us divided and has in fact been exacerbated in our towns, in our cities, because of massive urbanization. Now, under this theme, for example, we also tackle the question of land distribution and land restitution. We start from the position that public land is for the public good. Public land is not a commodity to be privatized and traded with in government. Its first purpose must be to serve the public good. Our Constitution provides for expropriation of land. Given the significant public land holdings, land expropriation should be our last resort. There's a duty on all landowners. Land is owned by the state, by the private sector, by churches, by banks, by the traditional leaders. All of the landowners in our country should become part of developing that solution that we are seeking for our country. Under social justice, race and gender still determines most South Africans' prospects. The vast majority of good South Africans are not racist, and they wish to see our countries prosper and succeed. Sadly, racist incidents continue to occur, but as a good movement, we're sending a clear message that we will not allow racists to speak for us. South Africa has shied away from tackling the structural and socialized racism within our society. We will lead the fight against racism and the fight against gender equality. We want gender equality, the fight against gender inequality. We cannot allow our future to be structured around racial privilege or racial disadvantage. Under the social justice theme, we will also tackle access to quality education. The future of our country depends on parity of excellent learning opportunities for every child in our country. And our policies will speak to the socio-economic rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. Under economic justice, South Africa's history to access to capital and wealth is inescapably unequal. And to create a society that redress capital, assets, and wealth inequalities requires a meaningful program of action and not just talk about it. We support the principle of broad-based Black economic empowerment, a concept that is geared to address unequal access to wealth and to capital. We are for BBBEE, but then it must also be done right. And if it's done right, we will then start to see the structure of our economy change so that access to wealth and capital is spread more broadly in our country. Something that is very close to my heart is the feminization of poverty in our country. It is women that are bearing the brunt of poverty in our country today, and this must be addressed. The growing trend of unequal pay for women, too, in the labor market is surely an economic injustice. There's no justification when a man and woman do the same work, but you pay the woman less. Under environmental justice, the last theme is that in the world, climate change is affecting us much faster than what the scientists have predicted. And then this generation must work to protect the planet and stabilize the climate so that we can protect our climate and our country and the world for future generations. Climate change is impacting on our economy, it's impacting on food security, and it's also raising food prices. We cannot afford not to tackle climate change. So under each of these four themes, we are developing detailed policy positions. We're also developing our 2019 election manifesto, and this we will reveal in January, our full bouquet of policies, and with also our manifesto and our premier candidates will be revealed in January. There's been a lot of speculation about the renaming of the Independent Democrats. This is a new movement, and we have also commenced the process of registering the new movement with the Independent Electoral Commission. Now, to fight elections across the country, certainly we will require substantial financial support. And we will be reaching out to all of those ordinary South Africans, businesses who wish to build a good South Africa to assist us. And then finally, this movement, the good movement, is about the country that we all love. The future of this movement and of our country lies in the hands of a diverse group of young and experienced people, like some of them that have joined me here today. But there are many thousands out there in our country who wish to build a South Africa that is prosperous and that is equitable. And my role in the movement for good will be to use my experience in government and my experience in providing good services to all and spread that to the rest of our country. I will also continue to nurture and mentor young leaders, because the young leaders are not only the present of our country, but they're also our future leaders, and I will continue to mentor them. So I again call on all good South Africans, all good people in our country, to join us and to restore hope and patriotism in the future of our country. The good movement will also remind all South Africans that you don't need to be a black person to fight racism. You don't need to be a woman to fight for women equality. And you don't need to be a gay person to fight against homophobia. So we do call on all South Africans to join this good movement. In closure, God bless Africa, God seën Africa, and Nkosi Sikelele Africa. I thank you for coming out here this morning, and may God bless all of you too. Thank you very much. Nkosi Kakhulu. Before we take questions, I am just going to ask Sibongile next to me to introduce her. She is a firm believer in social justice, and that most of our youth in South Africa has been disappointed in today's political leaders, who also fallen prey to corruption. And she will share with us her personal experience. Sibongile?
Sanvanani, good morning. I'm just going to share my own personal experience. Being a black, young South African woman starting to work in an IT industry. I started being naive, just, I'm going to be the first black woman, be the highest, or, just wanting to climb the corporate world. And to my shock, when I got there, things didn't go that way. I faced so much racism in the corporate sector. And I'm in a male-dominated industry. So already you're facing the challenges that you are black, but even more if you are a woman, you get a raw deal. Because when you get to a reception, there's like, okay, where is the guy? And he's like, okay, I am the guy. I had so many experiences that it's too many to share, but I used to cry daily. I even got kicked out just because someone didn't believe that I am a technician to assist. And for me, that was like an eye-opener to say, as much as we say, yay, after we have conquered racism, yay, 94 elections are there, but the racism is still very, very high in the corporate sector. And I think it is time that we come, all of us. It doesn't need just only the people that are affected, like Aunt Pat said. It needs everyone to get involved. like the employers needs to get involved. Everyone needs to get involved, because I remember I went to HR. When I went to HR, I was accused of stealing for something that didn't even, it was just a story. And I was naive and young. And the HR person, a lady, she was smiling, the grin. And then when she closed the door, all her smile went away. She said, "You do not want to mess up your career. You must drop off these cases." And I did that. And that discouraged me as a woman. And that discouraged me as a young person to say, I want to climb the corporate sector. And it made me hate IT. It made me to say, I don't want to do this. Yes, I did stay, and then after that I did resign after some years, and I decided to pursue entrepreneurship. What I'm trying to get to is that, just going back to Anpet said, everyone has to get involved to fight this. Men, because I was the first black woman in my company to be employed for the position that I was, I didn't have anyone to cry to. When I go to my boss, he'd be like, okay, but there are other black guys that don't experience the same thing. But I'm like, okay, it's not the same. You know, as a black woman, you get the worst of the worst in terms of racism. So everyone has to get involved, and everyone has to want to change this, because it cannot be only the people that are affected that wants to change. Even the people on the other side that are on the privilege, they have to want to change things. They have to want to bring in change, because the study has been done that companies that are diverse, they do, I think, 36% better than companies that are not diverse. So the more companies are diverse, the better we do as a country as well as companies do. So for me, that is what I want to share, and I'd like to call every young South African black woman, doesn't have to be everyone, to say we have to get involved, because people they even sometimes are scared to lose their jobs. They don't speak. No one speak about these things in the corporate sector, because everyone, I'm going to lose my job. You are on by your own. You go through these experiences on your own. So everyone must get involved. The platform must be there so that we can tackle these issues, and all the good people must be able to then solve out the racism in the corporate sector.
Thank you, Sipimkile. I have to be equal. I have to give one of the young men also to speak.
I think the message today is clear, and the call for the young people, in particular those who have gave up in the system, because you're thinking we've been rejected and forgotten by the system, and living in a society that is violent, living in a society where you witness rape on a daily basis, the mindset gets toxicated as a young person, and you give up, you lose hope. And I think the message today is clear. Be part of a good movement. Do good. It's starting your society. It doesn't have to be a big movement that you start. Where you are, you do good. And you call upon the young people that have thought that the system have gave up on us. They only remember us on a certain day. Now, this good movement would be there for the young people. Mampet said that would be given a chance, would be empowered and developed as young people. And it's not a call to a certain race, because even young white people, they face rejection, because this is a new generation, and we all equally face challenges. So this is a call to every young person to start today. We are not calling for a certain individual or certain race. We are calling for the young people to stand up and start good. And the minute you do good, and that's when you see the society change. Because when you know better, you do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, can we even take some questions? Roger, can you just end?
We could, okay, so we're just going to take a few questions. If If you can just mention your name and which media house you're from, and I'll give you an indication. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, my name is Malungu Boyd from ENCA. My question is directed to you, Patricia. How much of an impact do you think this movement will make, considering that you will be contesting elections at a national level? One, though, would think that you make an impact at a much lower level than at a national level. And how confident actually are you that you will actually even get a seat in Parliament to make that change you're seeking to make? Thank you.
Well, certainly the good movement, we have done our research. We know that there are many South Africans that are looking for an alternative. There are many South Africans who are undecided. And you know, like Nelson Mandela said, you always think it's impossible until it's done. I think South Africans know me by now. I will not give up. And I'm driven by the love for my country. And I believe, sincerely believe, that there are many good South Africans. So maybe we can talk after the elections. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Mohamed Lana from EWA. From why Johannesburg? With the thought Cape Town would be your first choice. And number 2, PAC, ID, DA, and now good.
Yeah.
How can you assure us that at a later stage we won't see that also evolving to a bigger party, whether it's for ambition or whether it's for strategic political connection to merge with them? So what's your guarantee that it won't come to that as a sort of the DA? Thank you.
Let me just answer the first one, why Johannesburg. I think it's also about time that we move out of racial demography. People look at me as a certain demography and say, oh, you only need to be in the Western Cape. That's wrong, my brother. Our constitution starts in our preamble. It says, we are united in our diversity. So we need to stop blocking people into apartheid, spatial, racial areas and say, oh, but you should have been in Cape Town. I'm sorry, my brother. I know that there are good people across South Africa. You know, the first journalist that's asking me, and I hope the media can stop this and help us to build a united South Africa, united in our diversity. And stop look at the color of the person's skin. In any case, I'm an African. I'm a South African. Nobody's going to define me. I've never accepted the identity given to me by the apartheid regime. Thank you for the question about PAC, ID, and then DA. When I was in the PAC, I fought for the liberation of this country. We attained our freedom in 1994, and we produced one of the best constitutions in the world. We move on to a next phase of living in a constitutional democracy. When I started the Independent Democrats, I wanted to become the first woman in our new democracy, claiming my constitutional rights for anybody to start a political party. Remember, political parties were banned before 1994. But I wanted to be the first woman to start a political party and then contest elections at all 3 spheres of government and won seats at that time. So that was my motive. I'm a person that's continuously moving. I'm very restless. When we joined with the DA, it was because Helen Zille and myself had agreed that we need to come together and build an alternative for our country, because we could see the red lights flickering in our country, a lot of constitutional violations. And that project I still believe in today. that we need to unite good South Africans so that we can build that alternative. And that is why we're giving South Africans another choice. This is what is in our constitution, a multi-party democracy. And South Africans will decide for themselves what it is that they want. So the project that I started with Helen Zille to build this alternative is no more, because the party as it's structured now certainly don't believe in the values of our country and in the values of the DA itself. So my guarantee to South Africans is that I've been fighting all my life, since a very young age. I've fought for a cause all the time. It was never about personal gain. I can go and sit easily at my home and relax and go on to pension. But I cannot rest while my country is still in the space where it is now. So I will continue to be involved until the day you put me 6'6" down there. Then I will rest. For now, I can't rest. But as you can see here, I believe that the young people must be given an opportunity to become involved, so that the young people in this country must say nothing about us without us, and create that opportunity for young people to be involved. You see, in other political parties, they are recycling the same old politicians all the time, because the only reason why they sit in parliament, they want to be there for 15 years, that they can build up a pension, and so they become dead wood. And I will use this good movement to create that opportunity for young people to go into parliament and speak for themselves. Thank you, my brother.
When you speak about spatial justice, would you say that you're hitting the DA in the weak spot? Because you and I have spoken to great lengths about, how, they wanted to move some of those people out of the city CBD, and also, them selling parcels of lands to private developers. And also my second question, political analysts, after your media briefing a few weeks ago in Cape Town, when you announced that you starting a political party, they said that you're making the wrong move because this won't have a very long life. What is your response to that? Thank you.
I'm going to ask Brett to just speak to the spatial justice, and then I'll deal with the...
Yeah, thanks, Marvin. I think that the question of spatial justice is a question of failure across governments in South Africa. And so it may touch the DA's weak spot, but it's not only the DA that has failed in government to address spatial justice. And spatial justice has the spatial inequalities in our society have a long history, as Patricia said in her remarks. And across our country, there's been a failure to address spatial inequalities, spatial segregation. Towns and cities across the country still represent the spatial structuring that was the design of apartheid. So although the DA has certainly failed where it is governing to address spatial inequality and spatial segregation, but so too have other governments like the ANC. And so it's a failure across South Africa to address spatial inequality and the spatial justice issue.
It is just when we wanted to address spatial injustice in the city of Cape Town, that's where both Brett and myself were targeted, because the DA does not believe in it. On the issue of political analysts, I am watching and I'm listening to many political analysts, and with due respect to some of the analysts, it's not really analytic, it's more opinion. Now, people are entitled to their opinions, but they're certainly not entitled to judge. And that is the problem that's happening today. Somebody just wakes up one morning and say, I'm a political analyst. There's no entry level as to how you become a political analyst. And I'm glad that the people of South Africa will not be voting for political analysts, because if they'd done so, they would have never thought about what is good for themselves and what is good for our country. So yes, I am open for constructive criticism. And people ask me, why did you start the New Good movement? I said, because I can. Because it's my right in the Constitution. Don't you know my right in the Constitution is because I can. That's why I have done it. So I'll certainly listen to, and I speak to many analysts myself, and I will certainly find some time to gather some of them, and we will enter into a conversation about the aims and objectives and the policies of the Good movement. Thank you.
Sure. We have another round. My sister over there, brother next to her, and you at the back will be number 3. Thanks.
I'd just like to find out what went into choosing these specific colors for this Good movement. And would you say that you basically resuscitated the independent Democrats? Can you assure South Africans that this is really a brand new movement?
Well, I've in my speech, in the speech, it is certainly not a resuscitation. It is moving forward. It's a movement for good. It's a movement that is disrupting the normal template of politics in our country. So certainly no, we're not resuscitating the idea. You ask about the color. The color, when we were assisted by brand specialists and people in the marketing field, and if you look at even today what colors symbolize, the Pantone and the color that we came up with is closer to what we really would like to achieve in South Africa. Because, you know, yellow is owned by the ANC, blue is by the DA, red by the EFF, and you had to find a different color. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mundengan from SABC. Every time the country goes to election, we see, parties, new parties, coming. We've seen Dr. Rampela, launching a party which is nowhere as we speak. We have seen a code coming into the picture right now. They are left with 2 members in parliament. I'm just wondering how will you convince South Africans that they can trust the new party, because South Africans are tired of fighting back and forth.
I'm sure your analysis is anecdotal in a sense. Like I've said, that we have done a survey conducted by Ipsos, and we know what the lay of the land is. And that's the beauty of our democracy, that we need to provide South Africans with more choices. And the Good movement will be a choice, especially for good South Africans who want to see our country prosper, that we go back to reconciliation. And I put my faith in the hands of South Africans. And I know that South Africans want the best for their country. We've got no other country. This is our country. We must make sure that we build a country where the next generation can take over from. But it's also people's democratic right. So, when people decide who to vote for, give them the choice. That's the beauty of our democracy. Or do you want to see a two-party state? We cannot afford to have a two-party state in this country. And this is where our democracy was going towards. We must recognize the diversity within our country and give people that choice to choose. A two-party state is going to further destroy our country. So allow South Africans to make their choice amongst the political parties who want to do it. And like I say, it's anybody's right to start a political party. Thank you.
Sure. We're going to have a final... Oh, you may have your chance, yes.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for taking my question. It's Bonolo from Network 24. I have 2 questions. Firstly, is the party registered with the IEBC? And how much will it cost the party as well to register with the electoral body? And then secondly, you made a call for ordinary citizens of this political party. Thirdly, when did you think about starting a new political party? Did you think about it whilst you were still in the DA? Where did this idea start from? And then lastly, could you just elaborate more on the structure, the top structure of the party? Who were the members who will be serving in the top structure, and what positions will be occupied?
Thank you for this question. Yes, we have registered the party with the IEC. They are in the process of going through the regulations by advertising the name and all of that. Yes, we have registered, so we are a registered political party. The cost of registered is minimal. I think it's about 500 Rand to register a political party. So, and also you need to have 500 signatures of 500 registered voters. So we've done all of that. The call for ordinary South Africans to fund the party, it's already happening. Funders are approaching us. I know people sometimes don't have confidence in a political party, they don't have money, but money is not going to stop us because we will get the funding, we are getting the funding, but we are also doing things differently to save costs. And this is going to be a complete digital campaign. It's going to be overlaid with technology, starting as from today that we've announced this. We are going to reach thousands of South Africans through digital and technology. And we will also be doing the old style to have town hall meetings. From next week, we will be running advertisements across the country to promote the name. So it is possible for a new name to land and to majority of South Africans to know about that name and the movement and what we stand for. So it's not that difficult. I also thought it was difficult, but with technology today, it is a different world that we are living in. And so there's a bill before Parliament which must still be signed by the President that will compel all political parties to name their funders. Once the bill becomes law, we will certainly comply with the law because we believe in the rule of law and we believe in our Constitution. When did the idea come? This idea, when I was fortunate to serve the people of Cape Town as the longest serving mayor for 7 years, I discovered in the process of being a responsive mayor, I discovered there are many good South Africans there. You also find some South Africans who just like to sit and complain and blame, but there are also many South Africans, and that's where I really realized that without the response from the people, you are not able to run a good government. Without consulting with the people to hear what they want, what is best for them, you will not be able to run a good government. And that's when the idea came with me already. But after 2 years of hell, after 2 years of having been abused, racist abuse and everything, it just resolved, it came up in me that there are good people. Let me leave this abusive relationship and let me go and find those good people that I already know exist in our country. And before that, I said, let me do a survey and find out, like I said, we've done the Ipsos survey, and it confirms, the disillusionment with the existing political parties and what is happening in our country. And picking up on that, the opposite is to find those good people. Because if good people do nothing, that's when evil and corruption and racism triumph in our country. Oh yes, we also have gotten a constitution which we had to submit to the IEC. And we have agreed that because of the time, up to now to the elections, that we're going to have an interim national leadership structure. We're also going to have a smaller structure that's sort of managing our elections in the day-to-day. And then after the elections in 2019, within 18 months thereafter, we will then have a national congress that will then elect leaders. But for now, we've got membership and supporters, and they're all going onto our database, and we're consulting with all our members and our supporters on the way forward. Because at the end of the day, like I was saying, I want to give over to the young people and experienced people to take the movement forward. I thank you.
Thanks so much. We're going to have a final round. Just to see, we can go 1 and 2, and then that will be a wrap. Thanks.
Just a comment. We are so thankful for what is happening right now. I represent the Pastors Institute in South Africa, and there's a scripture that fits very well with what is happening today. It's found in Romans 12, and it says, "Be not overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good."
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Paul again from EWN. Just 2 questions. Should I read anything into the leadership that's here with you right now? I mean, Mr. Brett Herod was one in Cape Town, and Mr. Abrams is also here. So I just want to find out there. You know you can't name the leadership now, but you said, should we read anything into it? And number 2, there's sort of fatigue with political parties in South Africa right now, especially the youth. They'll always be saying it. Social media, they will say it. The voting, they don't really come out. IEC saying that they're having trouble getting the voters roll. So what's your angle there? Because it seems like young people are disillusioned with political parties right now. They don't really have trust in them.
Okay. The first question was the fatigue. The fatigue with voters, especially amongst the youth. Did I get that right?
Yes.
That's why they are here, to speak for themselves and to go and find their peers in the communities, to fight for a good cause. I think you only need to give young people a cause to fight for. And this is the cause for a good South Africa. And so the young people in the party, together with the experienced ones, they will certainly go out and mobilize the young people. On the issue of, well, you can read anything into what you want to read into it. But you see, it's also people's choices. You know, when Brett Herron resigned, he resigned because the spatial integration that we were driving in the city was blocked. And he just became frustrated and he said, look, this is not what we stand for. And Brett left. Sean August resigned in council in solidarity with the unfair treatment that not only me received, but many other DA councillors and leaders received by the DA. So people have got their various reasons why they are joining, and I respect that reason. We are saying that people who are joining us, if they come from another political party, they will have to resign from there. We're not going to make a fuss about anybody that joins us, whether it's from the ANC or from the DA or from the EFF, and have a big media scene about it. No. People must believe in the values and the principles of this movement, and if they want to work for a good South Africa, they are certainly welcome. Thank you.
That will be the absolute final.
My name is Izalo Mkhale. I've been in the farm. I think good came in the right way because not in any party that I've been involved with. I've never voted for councillors, but with good, I think I would say a special way to anyone to understand what is the meaning of good and the way that they have to do, especially young people. Because we are getting experience more things that we see in the farms. We've been infected, we've been beaten and being harassed, and those other things that I say my best. I give, I don't know how many years should I have to clap for you, but I think that's good. Not only good as good, but it is good.
I'm going to ask one of the young people. Roger, can you explain what will you do as a young person to mobilize young people?
I think for me as a young person, I'm only 32, that's so young. Politics has really failed my generation completely. And that is why this new approach, I think, with regarding the good movement, that it is not built around an individual. It's not built around a fact, better known as the art of the nation. But it's around a set of values that we believe in. And I think one of the themes, social justice specifically, will deal with the aspect of education, will deal with the aspect of empowerment, and we're going to be unapologetic about that. So I think young people engaging in politics, it's not necessarily that they cannot relate, but we will try means to educate. We will be an active citizen-driven movement, empower youth so that they can start relating to the core issues and not just allowing it to a few elite to make decisions. So from my side, I think we know time is against us, but every day we will definitely be reaching out to the youth and getting their input into this movement and what they'd like to see, because we believe that the majority of the youth are good. We're going to build good for good, and that's what we believe.
Thank you. I would just like to also, I've also consulted widely with many people and my mentors. And one of my mentors, the retired Judge Dion Besson, is here today. We had long discussions, and as a judge who had presided over many rights issues, human rights issues, he also endorsed the good movement, because it's going to be based on us letting people know what are your rights, claiming your rights in that constitution, and then build a good South Africa. So thank you, Judge, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, good people. That's a wrap. Please help us out with some refreshments in the garden, some to drink, and thank you very much.
Yep, officially you may.
Oh.